Good morning. Oh, so my computer decided to lock up and freeze on a blank screen, and I could not get it back on, so I had to restart the computer. Oh, figures, of course, when I need to be live. Good morning. Today is AA Day. Please be respectful in the chats, and no harassment, no bullying, and no judgment. People are here for help or just support for my channel, or even here to learn ways that they may be able to help a friend or a family member to get sober. So I am Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm not scared to share that I am a recovering alcoholic to everyone. So that is why I have decided to do AA on YouTube and Facebook. Because after all, AA is teaching us different ways to be able to stay sober and have the tools to help us along the way. And as well as people in the meetings and such, they are wonderful people, and we just help each other that way. So, just a minute, Facebook. Just a minute. What?
So I'm on my way home now.
Why?
Manager Demetrio is probably 95% sure getting fired.
Why?
Because he got three disciplinary actions.
So you don't have a job?
No, I do.
All right.
It's just that I don't know what to do because he's not there to train me.
So call the other people and ask.
He's texting me her number now.
Huh?
He's texting me the lids manager now.
Oh,
her
okay.
number.
All right. Love you.
Love you too. See you when I get home.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Sorry about that. The kid called. Apparently the district manager or whatever just got fired. So he is still trying to be trained, and I don't know what else is going on. Anyways, I'm so thankful for all of you. I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer and then get into the steps and traditions, and then I'll get into the big book. I do put in the description the story, the page, and book that we are reading, right under, you heard what? Because I thought I muted it. Oh, well. It's all good. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah, having kids, and he's an adult, but at least he calls and lets me know what's going on. Which he doesn't have to, but I appreciate that because I really worry about my kids, no matter how old they are. Anyways, let's get on with this meeting. It's hot. Okay. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a decision to turn our lives and made a decision to made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. I am tongue-tied today. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory of ourselves, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to the alcoholic and to practice these principles in all our affairs. After this live stream, I'm going to be changing my logo. So just know that I am doing that. So, okay, we are on page 328 in the 4th edition. Crossing the River of Denial. She finally realized that when she enjoyed her drinking, she couldn't control it, and when she controlled it, she couldn't enjoy it. Denial is the most cunning, baffling, and powerful part of my disease, the disease of alcoholism. When I look back now, it's hard to imagine I didn't see a problem with my drinking, but instead of seeing the truth, when all of the yets, as in that hasn't happened to me yet, started happening, and I just kept lowering my standards. Dad was an alcoholic, and my mother drank throughout her pregnancy, but I don't blame my parents for my alcoholism. Kids with a lot worse upbringing than mine did not turn out alcoholic, while some that had it a lot better did. In fact, I stopped wondering, why me? A long time ago. It's like a man standing on a bridge in the middle of a river with his pants on fire, wondering why his pants are on fire. It doesn't matter. Just jump in. And that is exactly what I did with AA once I finally crossed the river of denial. I grew up feeling as if I was the only thing keeping my family together. This, compounded by the fear of not being good enough, was a lot of pressure for a little girl. Everything changed with my first drink at the age of 16. All the fear, shyness, and deceit evaporated with that first burning swallow of bourbon, straight from a bottle during a liquor cabinet raid at a slumber party. I got drunk, blacked out, threw up, dry heaves, was sick to death the next day, and I knew I would do it again. For the first time, I felt part of a group without having to be perfect to get approval. I went to college. I went through college on scholarships, work study programs, and student loans. Classes and work kept me too busy to do much drinking. Plus, I was engaged to a boy who was not alcoholic. However, I broke off our relationship during my senior year after discovering drugs and rock and roll, companions to my best friends, alcohol. I proceeded to explore all that the late 60s and early 70s offered. After backpacking around Europe, I decided to settle in a large city. Well, I made it all right. To, to full blown alcoholism, a big city is a great place to be an alcoholic. Nobody notices. 3 martini lunches, drinks after work, and a nightcap at the corner bar was just a normal day. And didn't everyone have blackouts? I used to joke about how great blackouts were because you saved so much time in transit. 1 minute you're here, the next minute you're there. In retrospect, making jokes, just laughing it off, helped solidify my unfaltering denial. Another trick was sleeping companions who drank just a little bit more than I did. Then I could always point to their problem. One such companion led to my first arrest. If the driver of the car had only pulled over when the police lights flashed, we would have been fine. If when I had practically talked our way out of it, the driver had kept his mouth shut, we would have been fine. But no, he started babbling about how he was in rehab. I got off with a misdemeanor, and for years I completely discounted that arrest because it was all his fault. I simply ignored that I had been drinking all day. One morning while I was at work, a hospital called telling me to get there quickly. My father was there dying of alcoholism. He was 60. I'd seen him in hospitals before, but this time was different. With stomach sorely distended, swollen with fluids, his unfunctioning kidneys and liver could no longer process. He lingered for 3 weeks. Alcoholic death is very painful and slow. Seeing him die of alcoholism convinced me I could I could never become an alcoholic. I knew too much about the disease, had too much self knowledge to ever fall prey. I shipped his body back home without attending the funeral. I could not even help my grandmother bury her only son. because by then I was inextricably involved in an affair mirrored in sex and alcohol, plummeting into the pitfall of incomprehensible demoralization, demoralization that that relationship became. I had my first drunk driver arrest. It terrified me. I could have killed someone. Driving in a total blackout, I came to handling my driver's license or handing my driver's license to the patrolman. I swore it would never happen again. 3 months later, it happened again. What I didn't know then was that when I put alcohol in my body, I'm powerless over how much and with whom I drank. All good intentions drowned in denial. I remember joking about how most people spent their entire lives without ever seeing the inside of a jail. And here, a woman of my stature had been arrested 3 times. But I would think I've never really done hard time. Never actually spent the night in jail. Then I met Mr. Wrong, my husband to be, and all that changed. I spent my wedding night in jail like every other time. However, it wasn't my fault. There we were, still in our wedding clothes. If he had just kept his mouth shut after the police arrived, we would have been fine. I had been convinced that he had attacked the valet because our wedding money was missing. Actually, he thought the valet had stole the marijuana we were going to smoke. In reality, I was so drunk I had lost it. During the interrogation of the valet in the restaurant parking lot, my husband became so violent the officer put him in the back of the patrol car. When he tried to kick out the rear window, the policeman retaliated. I pled with the officer as a second policeman arrived, and both bride and groom were taken to jail. It was then that the stolen marijuana cigarettes were discovered. To my horror, in central booking as they catalogued my belongings, I was arrested for 3 felonies, including drunk and disorderly and 2 misdemeanors. But it was all my husband's fault. I had practically nothing to do with it. He had a drinking problem. I stayed in that abusive marriage for nearly 7 years and continued to focus on his problem toward the end of the marriage in my misguided attempts to set a good example for him. Plus, he was drinking too much of my vodka. I mandated no booze in the house. Still, why should I be denied a cocktail after returning home from a successful day at the office just because he had a problem? So I began hiding my vodka in the bedroom and still did not see anything wrong with this behavior. He was my problem. I accepted a transfer with a promotion. Yes, professional life was still climbing. Shortly after the divorce, Now I was sure my problems were over, except that I brought me with me. Once alone in a new place, my drinking really took off. I did not have to be a good example anymore. For the first time, I realized that perhaps my drinking was getting a bit out of hand, but I knew you'd drink too if you had my stress. Recent divorce, new home, new job, didn't know anyone, and an unacknowledged progressive disease that was destroying me. Finally, I made some friends who drank just as I did. Our drinking was disguised as fishing trips and chili cook-offs, but they were really excuses for a week-long binges. After a day drinking disguised as softball, I nicked, I nicked an old woman's fender driving home. Of course, it was not my fault. She pulled out in front of me. That the accident occurred at dusk and I had been drinking since 10 a.m. had nothing to do with it. My alcoholism had taken me to such depths of denial and heights of arrogance that I waited for the police so they know it was her fault too. Well, it didn't take them long to figure out. Once again, pulled from the car, handcuffed behind my back, I was taken to jail. But it wasn't my fault. The old board, the old broad shouldn't have even been allowed on the road, I told myself. She was the problem. The judge sentenced me to 6 months in Alcoholics Anonymous and I was outraged. By now I had been arrested 5 times, but all I could see was a hard partier, not an alcoholic. Didn't you people know the difference? So I started going to those stupid meetings and identified myself as an alcoholic. So you'd sign my court card, even though I couldn't possibly be an alcoholic. I had a six-figure income, owned my own home. I had a car phone. I used ice cubes, for God's sake. Everyone knows an alcoholic, at least one, that had to go to AA. So a skid row bum in a dirty raincoat drinking from a brown paper bag. So each time you read that part in chapter 5 of the big book that says if you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, my ears closed. You had the disease of alcoholism, and the last thing I wanted was to be an alcoholic. Eventually, you talked about my feelings in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous until I could no longer close my ears. I heard women, beautiful, successful women in recovery, talk about the things they had done while drinking, and I would think, I did that, or I did worse than that. Then I began to see the miracles that happened only in AA people who would nearly crawl in the door, sick and broken, and who I, in a few weeks of meetings and not drinking, one day at a time, would get their health back, find a little job, and friends who really cared, and then discover a God in their lives. But the most compelling part of AA, the part that made me want to try this sober thing, was the laughter, the pure joy of laughter that I heard only from sober alcoholics. Just trick my foot out. Ugh. Still, the thought of getting sober terrified me. I hated the woman I had become, a compulsive, obsessive daily drinker, not dressing on weekends, always afraid of running out of alcohol. I'd start thinking about a drink by noon and would leave the office earlier and earlier, our promising myself that I wouldn't drink that night. I'd invariably find myself in front of the refrigerator with a drink in my hand, vowing, tomorrow I won't drink tomorrow. I despised all of it, but at least it was familiar. I had no idea what sobriety felt like, and I could not imagine life without alcohol. I couldn't drink any. Sorry. I had reached that terrifying jumping off point where I couldn't drink anymore, but I just couldn't not drink. For most 23 years, for almost 23 years, I had done something nearly every day of my life to change reality to one degree or another. Yet I had to try this sober thing. Lay down, lay down. To this day, I am amazed at people who get sober because the holidays, I couldn't even attempt it until after the Super Bowl. One last blowout party when I swore I wouldn't get drunk. When I put alcohol in my body, I'd lose the ability to choose how much I drank. And Super Bowl Sunday that year was no different. I ended up on somebody's couch instead of my own bed, and I was sick to death all the next day at work. That week, I had to go to a hockey game. It was a work event, so I tried to really watch my drinking, consuming only 2 large cups of beer, which for me wasn't even enough to catch a buzz. I'm busy, and you're bugging me. Sorry, coppers wanting love. And that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. Sitting near the ice, frustrated and pondering the fact that 2 tall beers didn't give me any relief. Something in my head, and I know it wasn't me, said, so why bother? At that moment, I knew what the big book meant about the great obsession of every abnormal drinker being to somehow, someday control and enjoy his drinking. On Super Bowl Sunday, when I enjoyed it, I couldn't control it. And at the hockey game, when I controlled it, I couldn't enjoy it. There was no more denying that I was an alcoholic. What an ep- epiphany. I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous the next night, knowing I wanted what you had. I sat there I sat in that cold metal chair just as I had for the past 5 months and read step one on the wall for the 100th time. But this time I asked with all my heart for God to help me. And a strange thing happened. A physical sensation came over me, like a wave of pure energy, and I felt the presence of God in that dingy little room. I went home that night, and for the first time in years, I did not have to open the cupboard with the half gallon of vodka in it. Not that night or any night since. God had restored me to sanity, and I took step two, the very important. I surrendered and accepted my powerlessness over alcohol and the unmanageability of my life. Just a second. I attended I attended at least one meeting every day, emptying ashtrays, washed coffee pots, and on the day I took a 30-day chip, a friend took me to an AA get together. I was in absolute awe of the power of 2,000 plus sober alcoholics holding hands, saying the final prayer together. I'm getting goosebumps. And I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted life itself. Returning home, I begged God on my knees to help me stay sober one more day. I told God to take the house, take the job, take everything that was if that's what was needed for me to stay sober. That day I learned two things. The real meaning of step three and to always be careful what I prayed for. After 5 months of sobriety, I lost that six-figure job with the firm. The wreckage of my past had caught up with me, and I was about to work for a year. I was about out of work for about a year. That job would have been lost whether I was drunk or sober, but thank goodness I was sober, or I probably would have killed myself. Yeah. When I was drinking, the percentage or prestige of the job was my self worth. The only thing that made me worth loving. Now I was starting to love myself. Because AA had unconditionally loved me until I could. After 5 months, I realized that the world might never build a shrine to the fact that I was sober. I understood that it was not the world's job to understand my disease. Rather, it was my job to work my program and not drink, no matter what. At 9 months of sobriety, I lost the big house that I bought just to prove to you I couldn't possibly be an alcoholic. In between 5 and 9 months, my house was robbed. I had a biopsy of my cervix and I had my broken heart. Or I had my heart broken, sorry. And the miracle of all miracles was that I didn't have to drink over any of it. This for a woman who had to drink over all of it. I was so unique and so arrogant when I got here. I think God knew what He had to show me early on, that there was nothing a drink would make better. He showed me that His love and the power of the steps and the fellowship could keep me from picking up a drink one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time. No matter what, a drink would not bring back the job, the house, or a man with so why bother? I found everything I had ever looked for in Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to thank God for putting AA in my life. Now I thank AA for putting God in my life. I found my tribe, the social architecture that fulfills my every need for camaraderie and conveyability. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with long words. I learned how to live. When I asked how I could find self esteem, you told me by doing worthwhile acts. Even er, you explained the big book had no chapter titled Into Thinking or Into Feeling, only into action. I found plenty of opportunities for action in AA. I uh, could be just as busy and helpful to others as I wanted to be as a sober woman in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was never a joiner, but I got deeply involved in AA service because you told me if I did, I would never have to drink again. You said as long as I put AA first in my life, everything that I put second would be first class. This has proved to be true over and over again. So I continue to put AA and God first. And everything I ever lost was returned many times over. The career that I lost has been restored with even greater success. The house that I lost has been replaced by a townhouse that is just the right size for me. So here I am, sober, successful, serene, just a few of the gifts of the program for surrendering, suiting up, and showing up for life every day. Good days and bad days. Reality is a wild ride, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. I don't question how the program works. I trust in my God. Stay involved in AA service. Go to lots of meetings. Work with others and practice the principles of the steps to the best of my willingness each day. I don't know which of these keeps me sober, and I'm not about to try to find out. It's worked for quite a few days now. So I think I'll try it again tomorrow. I think I'll try it again tomorrow too. I think I will try it every day for the rest of my life. AA has taught me the exact same things. You can go back in my live streams for AA where I always say it's one day at a time, sometimes 1 minute at a time. And you can only go as far as you're willing to go. But I'm willing to go all in, all the way. But I don't plan for far away because you don't know what tomorrow or the next day brings. That's the future. But we have today, we have this minute, we have this hour, we have this second. That's all it takes is 1 second, maybe 1 minute, maybe 24 hours. Denial, I denied my alcoholism, but I want to say about the first year, I had been drinking. I'm very lucky. I didn't end up with major health problems from it. I consider myself lucky. I did drink a lot. I drank as a teenager, but when I was a teenager, it wasn't an everyday thing. But I did realize at that point that this is my thing. This is going to give me my confidence. This is going to get me my friends. This is going to like help me in everything. I got pregnant with my oldest son at 17. I quit drinking. I didn't drink as a teenager every day, like I said. When my oldest son was born, I didn't drink for a very long time. Very, very long time. I had a baby to take care of. I couldn't do that. I think I got drunk once when he was 7 months old, but I had other people with me and I hadn't drank for a long time because I've been pregnant and I was not going to drink while I was pregnant. And so I had my oldest son and I met my husband. Um, and then we had our youngest son. And when I got to 21, I was like, all right, I can go to the bar now. So let's go to the bar and have a drink or a couple. And I could do that and I didn't have to go all the time. Then my kids hit teenage years and I was feeling pretty down in the dumps because I was thinking they don't need their mom now. They're teenagers, they can take care of themselves, right? So why not let's just go party every single morning and all day long? I was in my 30s and I went down that hill after, I knew that alcoholics run in my family and, I don't know if it's hereditary or not, but either way, you have the control over your own self. And so when I was in my 30s, I got to where I would drink when I got up. For a while, I would drink with friends or uh, I'd have people come over or whatever, and we'd have a couple drinks or whatever. And then it got into where I was taking it every day. Every single day, I had to be drunk from sun up to sundown, and I had to make sure I had a way to have that alcohol to even hide it from people so that way they didn't know that I still had some left. Now, I really did get very offended when somebody did that with theirs. I was like, where is it? And then we get in big major arguments. And so I did that for a couple years and then I smacked my face on the stove. I was home by myself and I fell down and I smacked my face on the stove. And of course, I was drunk. And after that, I went sober for a year. I didn't know anything about AA. I knew it existed, but I didn't know anything else. I didn't even think about it when I quit drinking for that year. But then, I had set myself up, which you don't ever want to do. After that year that I was sober, I drank again. And guess what? I can vouch. It doesn't take you as long as it does the first time to get to the bottom. Because I went right back down and I was drinking every day again. Then I had a friend tell me about AA. She invited me to go to AA. I went to AA, My first meeting, I don't know if I said anything in that meeting, but I heard things from other people who suffered the same things that I was feeling and going through with being lost on how to change it, how to be different, how to be the true authentic self of me. And then I learned you got to put it first. AA, number one. My sobriety, number one. Because, like I tell my sponsees, you cannot take care of something else if you're not taking care of you first. And that's the full fact and truth. Because if you're not okay to take care of this situation over here or try to help in the situation over here. So you don't want to insert yourself somewhere where you're not okay with just you. And it Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me that I can live sober. I can laugh, I can cry, I feel real true emotions. I don't have the alcohol to cover it up or make it something that is not even, you know? And so being able to live life in sobriety for 9 years, I've had bad days. I've had wonderful days. I've had, you know, lazy days. It's just easier to deal with when you're sober. Because for me, when I would drink, I'd call people or I'd text people, and nothing I said or typed made any sense to anyone. And then, a few days later, I'd be getting this, you said this to me and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? I don't have to worry about that now, which is awesome. Um, so the reason I started AA is because I know that there's people that can't make it to a meeting, that can't leave home, or they just don't have the funds to be able to get to a meeting. And number one, on top of it all, I found AA and I've been given the gift to stay sober, and I am giving it back for helping you all to stay sober, get sober, help a friend, help a family member, be there for someone. Because with me screaming from rooftops, I am a recovering alcoholic. People hear me, and if they are thinking that maybe that's what they are, maybe they will come and say, hey, I need help. And if you've been given the gift from Alcoholics Anonymous and the ways to stay sober, pass it on. It's free to do that. Just pass it on. Keep it going. And that concludes this meeting. I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer for YouTube or for Facebook, and then I will come over and read the daily reflection. And Facebook, I will post it on my page if you want to read the daily reflection. It will be there, and you can read it there. So, and thank you all for being here. And I am blessed to have you all here for meetings and listening and passing it on to the alcoholics who still suffer. After all, that is my goal in helping others. So let's say the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Okay, let me get out of Facebook now. Go to daily reflection. A powerful tradition. Let me get a sip of my coffee real quick. In the years before publication of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, we had no name. By a narrow majority, the verdict was for naming our book The Way Out. One of our early loan members found exactly 12 books already titled The Way Out. So Alcoholics Anonymous became first choice. That's how we got a name for our book of experience, a name for our movement, and as we are now beginning to see a tradition of the greatest spiritual import. That is AA tradition, how it developed. Page 35, 36. Beginning with Bill's momentous decision in Akron to make a telephone call rather than a visit to the hotel bar, how often has a higher power made itself felt at crucial moments in our history? The eventual importance that the principle of anonymity would acquire was but dimly perceived, if at all, in those early days. There seems to have been an element of chance even in the choice of a name for our fellowship. God is no stranger to anonymity and often appears in human affairs in the guises of luck, chance, or coincidence. If anonymity somewhat ferocity for ferocious for, ferociously become the spiritual basis for all of our traditions. Perhaps God was acting anonymously on our behalf. I don't think I said that word right. For anyways, um, but that is the daily reflection. So, that is the meeting today. I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And stay sober and know that you're not alone. There are people willing to um, help you with your sobriety and help you with the ins and uh, where you can go for a meeting, what you can do for staying sober. And like I said, I have 9 years, but it could change. Um, so just always remember it's one day at a time. Sometimes it's a minute at a time. It depends on you. And only you can get you sober. with some help and just reach out. There's a lot of us that are willing to help. So I love you guys, and I will see you all on the next one, which is Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please hit the subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of upcoming videos. I love you guys. Have a great day.